So I've recorded, I'm going to record this in two parts. The first part is the Four Noble Truths, very expanded, elaborated into each aspect and sub aspect as I've learned. And the second part I'll do is the chain of the dependent co-origin or the chain of existence, Paticca Sutta. In the Vipassana workshops on day 6 morning, the morning chant is the Paticca Samuppada Sutta, and the evening lecture before that, or day 5, explains the chain. Now, I did not, I've been many workshops, but you understand these things when you're in deep meditation and you contemplate. You enter a state of jhana, you feel sensations, you enter samadhi, and then when your mind starts running away, what you do is you draw it back, reel it in, and you start tracking the Dhamma, the teachings, to keep it grounded. So that's something I learned from the monks. And when I did that, slowly, realized all of these things. So these things I've been doing since 2012, but only in the last 2 years, I actually realized what I've recorded here. So with books, with teachings, with meditation, suddenly you have your light bulb moments. So I'm putting them here. So the Buddha starts with the Four Noble Truths. That's the most famous, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the sutta in which he set the wheel of Dhamma in motion. Sariputta said the Buddha called this like the elephant's footprint. Just like all other animals in the forest, their footprint is encompassed by an elephant's footprint. So, to this teaching encompasses all other teachings that are required to become a skillful person or a noble person. So, it's known as an elephant's footprint. I used to have a CD which I played a lot, sung by Vijay Prakash, a brilliant CD, and that's how I got introduced to the Pali and how I could hear the Pali and start getting into Pali. So the first one is Dukkha Ariyam Satcham. Suffering exists. Dukkha Samudayam Ariya Satcham. So Ariya Satcham means noble truth. Dukkha has a cause, there's a reason for it to arise. Samudayam is it arises. Dukkha Nirodham Ariyam Satcham. The cessation of suffering is also a noble truth. And Dukkha Nirodha Gamini, Patipada, got some typos there, that's Patipada, not Patopada. Uh, the cessation of suffering going away, the path that leads to the cessation of suffering going away is also a noble truth. I mean, I really saw it later as Dukkha Mariam Sacham, that Dukkha was truly noble because without having any suffering, I would have not turned to any path to find a solution. So for me, in that respect itself, Dukkha was noble. Anyway, so those are suffering, there's a reason for suffering, there's a cessation of suffering, and there's a path that leads to cessation. Now, I had seen this superficially, but after going to the monastery, after getting in touch with the monks, I saw each of these in detail. So I'm just sharing that with you. So what is dukkha? He explains. The Buddha explains. He just doesn't say dukkha, Ariyam Satcham and walks away. And like, yeah, people look at life, my life is fucked. It, some suffering exists, yeah. So they accept it. But he goes on to explain what exactly it is. Jati bhi dukkha, jara bhi dukkha, vyadhi bhi dukkha, marnam bhi dukkha. Birth, aging, sickness, death. He explains, during your life, you will come across situations which are like this. अप्रिय ही संपयोग दुखो, जो अपने को प्यारा नहीं लगता, जो प्यारा नहीं है, अप्रिय. You come in contact with that sampayogo dukho, something that you don't like. You come in contact with it dukho, piye hi vipayogo dukho, something you are find very pleasant, you are enjoying it, and then it is taken away from you. Viprit ho gaya, vipayogo chala gaya, dukho. So getting in touch with unpleasant things, getting separated from pleasant things, both are suffering. Yam ichham no labhati tampi dukham. Yam ichham. So अपनी इच्छा के हिसाब से लाभ नहीं होता है. Yam picham na labhati tampi dukham. वो भी दुखा. So we have desires, but we are not fulfilling them. We are not getting the labh to that extent that we like. He goes on to say, Sankhite in short, Panch Upadan Khanda Dukha. Five Clinging aggregates. Khanda is aggregates, upadan is clinging. Um, Grasping. Upadan would be grasping. And this, I'll touch it in part two. Grasping. The mind is grasping. Okay. So there are these khandas. They are grasping aggregates. So these, I've written here five clinging aggregates, but it's actually tanha is clinging. It's grasping, strongly clinging, grasping aggregates. Whenever they arise, they lead to this situation where apiyahi sampayogo dukkho, piyahi vipayogo dukkho, yam pichhamyo labhati tampi dukkham. It leads to such a situation where you find separation from things that you deem pleasant as suffering, or contact with people, person, or things that you deem unpleasant. Dukkha. You know, and things that you pursue, ichha, and you don't get them. Labh nahi hota. You're not able to attain them. Dukkha. I've mentioned here the five aggregates. Roop, actually, I should have put the Pali in brackets all across, but anyway, Nam Rupa is the Pali form, Sankhara mental formations, Vedana feeling sensations, Sanya, I should have put Sanya in bracket just to be consistent, and Vinyan in bracket, but that's okay. Sanya, perception, and Vinyan, consciousness. There is a sutta which actually says that ignorance is the rain, consciousness is the seed, and the remaining four are conditions. So when ignorance reigns, consciousness arises. This is more relevant in terms of practical understanding. I don't want to get into theory. Theory was useless for me, so I won't give the theory. But its practical implication in the second part, Paticca Samuppada Sutta, when I read that, then it made a lot more sense. So I'll just explain the part that made sense to me. That discusses the chain which keeps us in the existence, and for why Vedana. So Vedana. Vedana is what you have experienced, the sensation on your body. Form is whatever we see, think. Sankhara is whatever we react. So you get a smell, you react pleasant smell. You get an unpleasant smell, you react unpleasant smell. You see something horrible, disgusting. You read something horrible, disgusting. Your mental formation reactions, they look at it and say disgusting. So, and most of them come from your perceptions. So something has happened that has made you perceive things in such a way. So that's your sanya. And then consciousness is not just our life consciousness, it is attributed to each of the senses. So there is a eye consciousness, ear consciousness, uh, touch consciousness, taste consciousness, all the five senses: sight, smell, hearing, taste, touch. Sorry, where were we? Here. I think I should go and fix this. It's very strange. Just try and fix this right now. Yeah, I just made a duplicate. I don't know why it wasn't reading properly, but we'll just start from here. Just making sure it is still recording. Yep. So, dukkha, we looked at dukkha, the reasons for dukkha. We looked at the five aggregates. Now, this one is really good. Why does dukkha arise? That was an overview of dukkha. This is the key. This is where he nails it. Dukkha samudayam aryam satyam. He says, yam tanha pono bhavika. Bhava is existence, pono is again and again, puna puna. Tanha is clinging. It is this clinging that keeps us into repeated existence. Yam tanha pono bhavika. This is the where he nails it. You keep a strong desire, a craving, or aversion for anything, that is going to be the cause of your existence. And we have millions of cravings and aversions. So each one of them will be a cause of our existence in some lifetime. Okay? We have millions of them. So when you meditate and you eradicate sankharas, you are eradicating reasons for tanaha. He says in the after explaining dukkha samudayam Maryam Satyam, he says yayam tanha pono bhavika Nandi rag sahagata tatra tatra binandini. So Nandi is like Anand wala Nandi, root word Anand. Rag and Dvesh he talks about a lot, craving. These two together, they go different places, trying to taste different pleasures. Nandi rag binandini. Pub hopping किया, अड्डा hopping किया, इधर गया उधर गया, ये आनंद लिया वो मजा किया. And they keep going on, never in an insatiable way. Think about it. There was nothing that you ever engaged in a pleasure that was ever satisfactory. It comes back again and again. Then he explains Sayyatidam in brief. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Then in one sutta he explains calm. Calm basically has two components mainly. Largely, the component is sensuality, calm, senses. And within calm, you have food and sex. These are the two things that drive calm. Hence, abstinence, renunciation. I put an S there, renunciation. So just forget the typos. Abstinence, renunciation, and control over this calm is an essential ingredient on the path. That's why monks have 227 rules they recite every no moon, full moon, half moon day, every fortnight or so they keep reciting it. Those two seven rules. It's all about control of calm. So in the second one, he says, this is your reason why suffering arises. Calm. Tanha keeps you in existence. Existence keeps your suffering going on and on. In fact, in the Asu Sutta, which I like a lot, it asks the monks, which do you think is greater, the tears you have shed in all your lifetimes or the waters of the great ocean? The monks reply, Lord, surely the tears that we have, the water in the great ocean is greater. And the Buddha said, no. You have shed so many tears that they are greater than the water in the great ocean if all the tears of all your lifetimes are collected. So, I mean, we have had suffering galore. Then the hope, dukkha nirodha mariya satyam. The cessation of suffering is a noble truth. Now, some person where the basic precept of lying is a minimum requirement for the practice, you'd have to have faith in the Buddha. If you have faith in the Buddha, you'd have to have faith in such a statement. Dukkha nirodha mariyam satyam. That means, yes, there is a cessation to this suffering. And for me, that is the biggest confidence in the Buddha. Slowly, as I got deeper into the teachings, I could see it just like a teacher tells you, okay, if you do this experiment, that will be the result. If you do that experiment, this will be the result. As you keep doing it and you keep getting the results, you get the confidence. No, man, this guy knows his stuff. He says, after saying Dukkha Nirodha Mariya Satyam, Yo tassa yeva tanhaya ashesa virag nirodha chago. Shesh is remainder, ashesh is not even remainder. This tanha, again, this tanha, this tanha, can I mark it? Can I have a this one, this tanha, ashes virag nirodha chago. When this one Nirod, when it is when the cessation of this is achieved completely, so that not even a remainder is remaining, shesh bhi na baki rahe, then you have achieved mukti analayo, complete mukti. Okay, he says this. This is the hope. Then he just doesn't give you hope and walk away. He gives you the path. Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada, and that should be an I. Patipada Arya Satcham. The Patipada is the eightfold path. Eightfold path which we have practiced in a workshop. It is divided into Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Now the Panya, he explains in the workshop, it's not bookish wisdom. It is not wisdom that somebody has said and you heard it and you agree. It is wisdom that you have actually experienced it. You have seen the arising and passing away on your skin, on your body. You have seen sensations arising and passing away. So you have experienced arising and passing away. In fact, the Buddha has said in the Dhammapada, in the Sahasravagga, the chapter of thousands, that 1 day of observing arising and passing away is equal to 100 years of a normal life. So, in one 10-day workshop, you have actually neutralized 1,000 years of existence just by watching the rising and passing away of breath, rising and passing away of sensation. Because I had asked a question to the monk. So, how does one sort of neutralize thousands of years of jol jal and evil doing? And he said that's how it goes. The Buddha himself said, and he gave another example. This was one example. 1 day of observing arising and passing away is equal to 100 years of normal life. And the second example he gave was in the Lone Phala Sutta. Lone is salt, loncha, lona. He said, I never said you're going to escape your karma. But it is also true. If you put a lump of salt in water, you will find the water salty. Now, when you put that lump of salt into an ocean, you will not feel the saltiness. Put it into an ocean of water. The lump of salt is still there, your karma is still there. But now you have got an ocean. What is the ocean? Every time you meditate, you are creating a Brahma Vihara, an ocean of goodness. That ocean comes and dissolves it. That is exactly how Angulimal actually eradicated all his sankharas, all of his defilements, and he became free. He became an arahant. How did somebody who killed so many people become? Not true that all of us will get that, but the theory is pretty solid that if you practice, and even the science is pretty solid that if you want to put salt in add it to an ocean full of water, you won't feel saltiness. You cultivate very little, a cup of water, you will feel some saltiness. Now, in the practice of Vipassana, all of the 8 steps get fulfilled. You just examine each of them. The 8 steps are right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right absorption. Samma ditti, samma sankapo, samma vacha, samma kamanto, samma ajivo, samma vayamo, samma sati, samma samadhi. Right view. This is very interesting. The Buddha says the view of the noble truths is the right view. Any other view is a wrong view. It's temporary. This is the universal right view. It it stays true, and again there's some typos, just ignore them. He says, observe these 4 noble truths. They will be true today, tomorrow, eternally. Now it's interesting because we are studying the 4 noble truths, right? Which has 4 parts. Dukkha, Dukkha Samudayam, Dukkha Nirodham, Dukkha Nirodhagamini, Patipada, the path. Now, in the path, the first step is the 4 noble truths. So it nests into itself, it spirals into itself this teaching. And that's how when you start practicing this, you spiral into this teaching again and again. Just like people get into a debt spiral, suffering spiral, a depression spiral, they spiral down compound interest, they spiral out of misery in this way. So this one spirals you out of misery. The teaching spirals into itself. So the more you go into it, the more it absorbs you and compounds the knowledge, the teaching, the blessing, and the fruits, the Maggafala. I should remember to talk about Sotapanna in video too. Right intention. There are two. Under right intention, there are two. Basically, renunciation, nekkhamma is the Pali word, and ahimsa, basically. In ahimsa, he says avyavado, ill will, hurting other people. So basically, by words and actions, these two should be your intention. Primarily, renunciation, giving up pursuits, at least futile pursuits. So for a monk, their food is provided by devotees. Two pairs of clothing are provided by devotees, and they don't take a new one unless it is sort of worn out. So the basic needs, they're known as requisites: a toothpaste, toothbrush, 7 items in the bag. The basic needs is all they can beg for. They can't beg for anything more than the basic needs. Everything else they have to give up. In fact, yeah, the monks were saying, without exception, that's all they eat, something which has been offered. That's all they wear, something which has been offered, without exception. They live a really cool life of renunciation. And even if they don't get into state of samadhi, if they can keep up the sila, the basic morals and precepts, they end up succeeding, progressing a lot further. Samma vacha, there are four aspects to it: Musavada, Pisuna Vacha, Bharusa Vacha, and Sambhaparamo. So one is lying, slanderous speech, harsh speech, idle chatter. So basically, what is right speech? He says four things make up wrong speech. If you avoid these four things, everything else is fine. So that's how most of his teachings are. Mm, the Kushala Akushala Dhamma. He basically says what is Akushal, and he says avoid this, and the remaining is Kushal in the Kushala Akushala Dhamma. Samma Kamanto. What is right action? He basically says as long as you don't kill, you don't steal, you don't get intoxicated, and do not engage in sexual misconduct, adultery, etc., the rest is right action. Samma Ajivo, right livelihood. He says as long as the work you are doing does not involve killing, stealing, intoxication, like Daru bech nahi raha hai, you are not running a brothel, you're not uh, in the business of cheating, stealing, you're not killing, you're fine. That's the right livelihood. Samma Vayamo. So he, this Goenka actually had explained, and I've revisited Goenka's lectures many times, and this I understood many years later. Somehow, when you're meditating and you go through these Dhamma aspects, when the mind digresses, you bring it back and try to go through all of this. I should also remember 5 hindrances and Sotapanna. Okay, so I've just made a note for myself for the next video. So Samma Vayamo is basically whatever is wholesome in you, keep it. So when you're meditating, your mind has got wholesome thoughts. Make sure they stay. And any wholesome thoughts that are not there, make sure you make an effort to bring them in. Any unwholesome thoughts that are there, and unwholesome thoughts, there are two types, which are really out of the 5 hindrances, there are two types which are going to bother you: sensuality, ill will. You might suddenly remember something somebody did and you might be filled with anger against them. You might remember some great pleasure, you might in food, sex, you might be filled with sensuality. You might feel a bit lazy, sleepy, or you just might have a great doubt: what the hell am I doing? Is this even right? These are the 5 hindrances, but sensuality, ill will tend to attack you a lot. Dispel them. And any unwholesome thoughts which are not present, prevent them from entering the mind. Oops, I've got so many typos here. Just busy typing all morning. Okay, so these are the 4 efforts. Whatever is good, keep it. Whatever is not there inside you, make an effort to bring it. Whatever is bad, kick it. Whatever bad is not there, make an effort to keep it out. So let's say you're sitting and you don't have any, you're quite calm and you don't have any unwholesome thoughts. Make an effort that it stays that way. Okay, make an effort that the calmness stays within you. Samma Sati, right mindfulness. So the Sati Pathan Sutta defines the 4 foundations of mindfulness. They are Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, Dhamma. If you remember, we start with breathing. Okay? And then we start by observing where the hand is, where the leg is. We scan the body. And then we, not only the body, we actually can feel the subtle sensations in the body. We also start seeing the mind running away and we keep bringing it back. That's chitta. Sensations is Vedana. Kaya is breath, body. Now, Dhamma is something that the monks taught me. I didn't learn it so much in the Vipassana retreats. They never talk about it. But going through these eight steps, going through the Four Noble Truths, and going through the Eightfold Noble Path, I found really helpful. The more I did it, the more clarity I got. I really developed insight. I really could go, oh, that's what it means. Oh, this is what it means. So that is where the Dhamma becomes more clear because you're observing it in a very deep, absorbed state of mind. Now, the monks told me to reach Samma Sati and Samma Samadhi. So, Shila, Samadhi, and Panya, the three steps. But Shila is most important. He says, if you keep very strong morals, the moment you sit, instantly you'll enter state of Samadhi. He said it's like a house on top of a mountain. You have gone to a Vipassana workshop, you have learned how to use the key and how to get into Samadhi. But your Shila is bad. So you can't climb the mountain because your Shila is bad. You've got lost on the mountain. So that's why you are finding it difficult to enter Samadhi. But if your Shila is good, you very strongly climb the mountain, use the key, enter Samadhi. So yeah, Shila is very, very important. Even the Vipassana teachers here, she said, if you can't feel the sensations on the body, if your body has got a lot of blank areas, then it's time to focus on your morals. Basically, blank areas is ignorance, pain is aversion, good sensations are craving, but blank areas are ignorance. So you have been ignorant and you have not been following the Shila, you have been sort of loose with your morals. So that's why you can't enter a proper state of Samadhi. Samma Samadhi. So they are known as jhanas. The Jhana Sutta explains the four jhanas. There's some very good similes. So you might remember we actually scan the body in the jhana, and you might remember also that when you go into a state of jhana, you are sitting like a log, and 1 hour can pass by. You don't even realize. The simile the Buddha gives is like um, it's very similar to a housewife making atta, starting with powder, then putting water slowly, and then rubbing the moist area over the powder, and slowly the powder becomes a lump of atta. If you remember, meditation is like that. You sit and then suddenly you see all vibrations, and you're sitting in a state of samadhi. You have become one big lump, vibrating mass, and then when the ends, you again become powder form. That whole lumpness, stiffness, everything disappears. All the four elements disappear, which you see on your body: the heaviness, the earth element, the heat, the fire element, the air, the wind element. You know. So you earth, wind, fire and liquid, and yet the sweat, you feel moisture. So all those four elements that you observe on the body, they're still there, but you just can't see them anymore. The Buddha's one word teaching, somebody asked him whether he could summarize his entire teaching in one word. He said yes. He said appamada. There's a sutta called appamada sutta. Appamada is vigilant. Always be vigilant where what your mind is grasping at, because the mind is very naughty. When it's bored, it will try to grasp at some sensual thoughts, some thought of food, some thought of sex, some thought of entertainment, some thought of amusing itself. You have to be vigilant about the mind, mindfulness, appamada, vigilance. His one line teaching, somebody asked him whether he can summarize his teaching in one line, and he said, Sabe Dhamma Nalana Bhini Vesaya. Vesaya is to make residence. The monk explained to it, he said, don't let any thought become so strong that it makes a very deep rooted, strong opinion uh, and takes hold of your mind. And you can see people who have got very strong opinions, that's it, they'll cling to that opinion. And that clinging to that view is what keeps them clung to the cycle of life. So never cling to a view. Let it go. Big deal. What happens? Yeah, okay. Never cling to a view very strongly. Sabe Dhamma Nalana Bhinivesaya. Never let a view take a strong hold of your mind. And the dying instruction the Buddha gave was Sabe Sankhara Anichyati. All mental formations are impermanent. Appamadena Sampadeta. So Appamada is vigilance, mindfulness. So he told his followers, be vigilant, practice Appamada, practice mindfulness, Sampadeta, Sampan, become Sampan, become successful, get your liberation. That was his instruction. I think that's the last slide.